You thought it's over? Nope. So we have to start out with the fact that, yeah, it's only 30% now. Yay, tariffs. It's a big win. No, screw you. You shot yourself in the foot and it's just bleeding less. It's bleeding less, but it's still potentially a huge increase on what shouldn't have been there in the first place. This is not relief because it's also a pause. There has also been no rhyme or reason to any of the increases, the timing of anything. We've seen them go on, we've seen them go off, we've seen them go on. There has been no stone unturned in the insane run that has led up to this, which means you can't predict, you can't say that it's actually going to go away in any sort of time frame. You can't say it's not going to go back up in this time frame. Do I hope it's going to go up? No. Do I hope that this is the last time I'm going to be talking about this? Absolutely. But if you feel confident in your predictive abilities, well, again, it's a crapshoot because the person making these decisions doesn't know what's going on in his own head, let alone anyone else. Well, unless he decides to tell them a few days in advance and then they can manipulate the market that way, but that's a whole nother issue. I don't like gambling, which ties me into the second portion of this video. I am not a big fan of gambling in general. I do not believe gambling is a good thing for our society. I don't like seeing it in any way, shape, or form. I don't like pretend gambling on the fantasy football side of things. I don't like real life gambling because it's an addiction. I have seen people have troubles with addictions. If you haven't, I'm really happy for you. But I have known people very close to me that have dealt with these sort of things. And it's not just as simple as, I just won't do it anymore. It's not as simple as, I shouldn't do this, therefore I won't. I guarantee you have something in your life that you go, I shouldn't do this anymore. And you still do it. Now imagine that that is not just, well, I eat an extra cookie out of the pantry at night, but it's that as something that has actual ramifications, physical, mental, and even monetary. And I don't even like the penetration of it now into the sports side of things with the fantasy promotions in basketball, in football or throwball, depending on what side of the pond you're on, right? It is pervasive. Literally, all of the major networks just promote it. I see it on my streaming of the, you know what, you can bet on this, bet on that, over under this, sum total that, parlay, whatever, right? And now with board gaming, again, it's not an apples to apples equivalent. But I look at the World Series of board gaming right now and I go, you know, this makes me a little bit trepidatious. And this is the one time I am going to believe a little bit more into the fallacy of the slippery slope. Because addiction, right? Addiction is where it stems. The addiction is a slippery slope. The sunk cost fallacy, you can get out of that. You can, you know what? Okay, great. But I just don't like the creeping in of it because eventually, right? If the house didn't win, the house wouldn't be playing anymore. So if this wasn't making a ton of money, it wouldn't be back, which means that invariably you have a lot of people throwing a lot of cash to lose games. Now, again, you can say, Chris, a lot of these people have a lot of disposable income to go and play, and you're doing it with a convention, and the majority of the people, they're going to do it with the convention, and they're going to have a lot of fun with the convention, and they're having a lot of fun just, you know, paying a bunch of money to actually just lose a game that they're okay with losing. I will make you the counter argument, however, that a lot of these people are paying upwards of triple digits, even, you know, $300 to get a couple games in of a game where this is not fun, I would argue, for a lot of people. This is high stakes. Just pretend for a second. Just pretend that you go to your local group of people that you play with, right? And let's just say you guys decide to have some fun with it, and everybody decides to pony up 20 bucks on, well, let's say it's gonna be Dune Imperium. Well, use something practical there. All of a sudden, when you're like, okay, strategic, all of a sudden, it's only 20 bucks, Chris. How serious is your group going to get knowing that you may lose $20 or potentially you may win $80? Are you going to be nice? Are you going to play casual? And now, imagine that's $300. Imagine you're paying airfare to go to that. And yes, it is making a ton of money because, like I said, otherwise it wouldn't be happening again. Because also, you're paying people to talk about it. You're paying people to come there and endorse it. And again, I'm going to be probably the odd man out on this. But I view that as gambling. Gambling adjacent, as close as you're going to get, probably, hopefully, in the hobby scene as a whole. And I just can't endorse that. I wouldn't tell you to go and do it with your local group like I was just talking about. And so if I'm not going to tell you to do it for, that sort of stakes, I'm not going to go tell you to or endorse doing it in the other way. But it's your money, so you can do it all you want. But that doesn't mean that I have to like it or I have to like this element being thrown into our hobby. I don't, so I can be angry man shouting at the clouds. I think miniatures should just be out of board games altogether right now. I think with all of the Tariff stuff going on, I think you should just say screw it, because as we saw with the Bitewings post, as we've seen with several other bigger companies, they are running into either financial issues, transport issues, or cost issues because of these tariffs. And the ones who aren't having as much are a little bit less dependent on that. Or the other side of things that you're not hearing, right, is that you're not hearing declarations of what they're going to do with the ones that actually are heavy saturated with that. So maybe if we didn't make all of our hobby miniature heavy and miniature based and our enjoyment based off of little plastic chunks that aren't even big enough in the first place, and that's really the other side tangent, the 1A to 1B here in this case, is that I hate these freaking small miniatures. I feel like miniatures for the sake of miniatures, you might as well give me a mother effing cube instead. Yeah, I'm team standee. Yeah, I'm team acrylic. Yeah, I'm just team anything but plastic gunky miniatures because no one paints them. I know plenty of people paint them, but the majority of people don't paint them, and the features aren't even good enough that you can't even tell what they are more than 2 feet away from the table. So if I want miniatures, I want something that actually has features. Give me the Sentinels from like Marvel United that are big enough that you can make out that no one has any qualms about saying, yeah, that's a quality product. But these little like 18 millimeter, 32 millimeter situations, they're worthless. I remember Lucky Duck's games situation with those, and I just hated them. That was an absolute cluster waste of money. It was worthless. They were blobs more than they were actual definitions, or the flimsiness of them in the first place just defeats the purpose. So why are we paying extra money? Why are companies so obsessed with this? Because again, it's a moneymaker, but now it's coming back home to roost. Over-deluxification does not mean better presentation. Over-deluxification does not mean better artwork. Over-deluxification is not innovation, and over-deluxification is miniatures, coins, sleeves, anything in that regard. And I stand by that, and it doesn't make me happy, and I don't want to see more of it. And I think this is where I'm okay with the crowdfunding bubble bursting, is if we see less of this stuff, if games and companies come with less of this in the first place, and then only after they get a sustainable product and a sustainable business model, come back to it with a deluxified add-on, give kudos where kudos is due. I like that Awakened Realms doesn't make me frickin' buy all the miniatures every single time. I wish they'd get away with it completely, but that's never going to happen because that is their core audience. The overlapping consistency, the Venn diagram of all of this is the people who want miniatures overwhelmingly, more so than not, have more disposable game income that we were just talking about. And so they're going to spend more because they can. Not that they should, but they can. Because again, it makes me feel better because I have it and you don't, or I have the bling on my table. It looks prettier than what yours is, right? That's a lot of the deluxification justification that comes from crowdfunding as a whole. Period. Stand by that. Peace out.